Her parents always told her that the world was not as simple as she wanted it to be. Her mother, strict and decisive, reminded her every day that she should strive for stability, and her father, who was always more immersed in work, reminded her that the world was full of opportunities but only for those who know how to use them. Despite their well-meaning advice, Lisa always felt like an outsider in their world of rules and expectations. She could feel the walls closing in as they pushed their idea of the right life onto her. Her mother's voice always echoed in her head, urging her to think practically, to secure her future. Marriage, career, stability, she would repeat, as if those were the only things worth pursuing. But Lisa knew deep down that her desires stretched far beyond the narrow definitions they had of success. She longed for more, even if she couldn't fully articulate what that more meant. The sounds of the city penetrated her ears as always. The evening noise was something familiar to Lisa. She sat at the kitchen table. Its creaking legs seemed to be trying to tell all the secrets that she tried to hide. There was no room in her life for chance meetings and rash actions, but everything changed the moment she met him. Her thoughts swirled around as she traced the chipped paint on the table, a symbol of the life she had led for so long, predictable, orderly, and safe. She'd always been taught to avoid risk, to follow a clear path toward stability and success. Yet, when she least expected it, a new presence entered her world, one that threatened to disrupt everything she thought she knew. Her once clear path seemed to fade into uncertainty, and the world that once felt so familiar suddenly felt vast and full of possibilities. "Lisa, you need to devote more time to your career," her mother said when Lisa returned home after another evening walk. "Have you forgotten that your father and I always dreamed of you marrying someone from a good family?" Lisa's heart sank as the words struck her. Her mother's expectations were heavy, suffocating even, yet they were always wrapped in a layer of love and concern. Lisa couldn't blame her for wanting the best for her, but it felt as though her mother's definition of best was constantly at odds with the direction Lisa wanted to take. The pressure built up inside, making her wish for some release, something or someone who could help her break free from the constant weight of these expectations. But for now, all she could do was nod and try to hide the frustration that was simmering beneath the surface. The heroine, 25-year-old Liza, was born into a middle-class family that always valued diligence and pragmatism. Her father was an engineer, and her mother worked in a government agency. They always encouraged her desire for knowledge and stability, but they could not understand why she did not want to arrange her life according to the standards. Liza was smart, purposeful, but her heart was occupied with questions that her parents could not answer. She had always been a good daughter, following the rules, excelling in school, and building a respectable career. But deep down, something was missing. She could not shake the feeling that she was meant for something greater, something beyond the traditional path her parents had laid out for her. And as the days went by, she grew more and more restless. Ivan was not only attractive and intelligent, he was ambitious and determined. However, behind his attractive appearance was his will to power and ability to manipulate situations, which Lisa quickly noticed but could not ignore. His world was dangerous, and she sensed it from the very beginning. The more she spent time with him, the more she realized that he wasn't just a charming, charismatic figure, he was a man who knew how to bend reality to his will. His life was filled with risk, and Lisa couldn't help but feel drawn to that unpredictability. Yet, with every moment spent with him, she felt the subtle pull of his ambition, the way he operated in a world where nothing was guaranteed, and everything was earned through calculated moves. That tension was both alluring and terrifying, making her question if she was ready to dive into a life so foreign to everything she had known. A couple of weeks later, after several meetings, Lisa found that her feelings for Ivan were growing with each passing day. He was a real mystery that did not give in to her usual principles. He invited her to get to know him better and even insisted on meeting his parents, business partners, to show how serious he was. Lisa didn't know how to react, her feelings and common sense were fighting each other. She was torn between the excitement he offered and the stability she had always sought. The world Ivan introduced her to was filled with possibilities, but it was also unpredictable and filled with shadows. She wondered if she was just being swept up in the thrill of something new, or if she was truly ready to embrace a life of constant uncertainty. Yet, every time she looked at him, the pull grew stronger. She couldn't deny that there was something magnetic about him, a force that made her question everything she had been taught. But another man appeared on the horizon, Andre, the son of the owner of a large IT company, a tech giant, who had begun his ascent to the top while still a student. His lifestyle was the opposite of Ivan's, calm, reserved, but at the same time, no less successful. He was the perfect candidate according to her parents, charming, intelligent, calm, ready to offer the stability that her mother was looking for. Andre's approach to life was methodical and logical, and everything about him seemed to align with the future her parents had envisioned for her. He was steady, reliable, and spoke with a confidence that was grounded in practicality. Yet, despite all his virtues, Lisa couldn't help but feel that something was missing. The stability he offered seemed too predictable, too safe, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she would be leaving behind a piece of herself if she chose him over Ivan. "Lisa, I think you should choose someone who will give you not only security, but also understanding," Andre said when they were working together on a new project. "I don't want you to lose yourself in a world where everything is so unstable." His words were thoughtful, and they struck a chord in Lisa. Andre seemed to understand her more than anyone else, offering a vision of a life where she didn't have to constantly worry about the unknown. It was a life that her mother had always dreamed of for her, secure, stable, and predictable. Andre was offering the very things her parents had always wanted her to pursue: success, stability, and a clear future. But the more Lisa listened to him, the more she realized that it was the comfort of predictability that didn't fully resonate with her. He made sense, and his stability was appealing, but there was a part of her that longed for more. She wanted a life that was bold, that pushed her limits, that wasn't constrained by the rules of comfort. She wasn't sure if it was Ivan's presence or her own restlessness that made her feel this way, but she knew that something inside her had shifted. She felt like she was standing on the edge of two worlds, one where everything was safe and assured, and another where every step was an unknown, a challenge she wasn't sure she was ready to face but couldn't help but desire. Lisa often thought about Andre's words. She understood that Andre was right about many things. But her heart, it was drawn to Ivan. To this risky, dangerous world that he offered her. A world where there are no guarantees, but there is a desire to live a full life. Lisa's thoughts swirled like the storm clouds above her city as she weighed her options. On one hand, Andre offered her the foundation she had always known, a life built on reason, practicality, and security. On the other, Ivan promised her a life full of passion, risk, and endless possibility, though it came with its own set of dangers. With Ivan, there were no guarantees, but there was excitement, and that, Lisa realized, was what she craved the most. The problem was that it wasn't just excitement, it was the uncertainty, the unpredictability of it all that made it impossible to ignore. But would she be able to survive in a world like Ivan's, or would the dangers that came with it overwhelm her? With each passing day, Lisa felt her world shrinking, as if she were standing in front of invisible walls drawn by the people around her. On one side was Ivan, charismatic, unpredictable, who made her want to reach new heights and challenges. On the other was Andre, calm and rational, who offered solid ground under her feet, but his world seemed so safe, but boring. It was a choice between stability and excitement, a life of certainty or one that constantly kept her on edge. Ivan was a man of risk and adventure, pulling her into a world that would never be easy but promised to be unforgettable. Andre, on the other hand, was the man of reason, offering her everything she had been taught to seek. He was the type of man she could rely on, the one her parents approved of. But as much as she appreciated his steadiness, Lisa knew in her heart that it was Ivan's wild energy that had captured her soul. He represented everything that was different, exciting, and uncharted, a life that made her feel alive. Her mother, who had always so carefully instructed her that she should marry a man who would provide for her future, increasingly expressed her concern about her daughter's choice. Frequent conversations began in their home, where her father was silent, as always, and her mother openly tried to fill Lisa in on the situation. "Liza, you must understand that stability is important. Ivan is not the kind of person with whom you can build a serious relationship," her mother said, setting the table for dinner. "Don't you see that his world is just an illusion? He will not be there when you really need him." Lisa listened silently, feeling her inner conflict grow. She knew her mother was telling the truth. But at the same time, something in her soul wouldn't let her let Ivan go. He was like a fire, bright but dangerous, and she felt drawn to him like a moth to a flame. But for some reason, she couldn't let go of the thought of another person, that calm and confident Andrei. Meanwhile, her relationship with Ivan was becoming more and more tense. He was persistent, he didn't tolerate competition, and he showed his power more and more. He kept saying that he wanted to see her in his world, not the one her parents were offering. "You can be part of something much bigger, Lisa. You can be the one who changes everything. You don't have to live the way others tell you to," he said, his voice full of determination. "I don't just see you as a woman, I see a partner. You are not just an object of desire for me, but a person with whom we can build something great." These words excited Lisa like never before. She felt her heart begin to beat faster when she thought about his proposal. Being with him meant entering a world she had never dreamed of, but it was a world in which there would be no place for her past. And again, questions arose in her mind: should she follow her feelings or choose the path of stability that Andrei offered? "Liza, I don't need you to be perfect, I need you to be yourself," Andrei said one day, accidentally brushing his hand against hers during their conversation. It was a simple gesture, but it sent a surge of warmth through Lisa. She felt an unexpected flutter in her chest at his words. Andrei was confident in who he was and in his ability to provide a stable future, and that was exactly what Lisa found appealing. His straightforward nature made her feel safe, unlike the unpredictable, passionate fire that Ivan had become. Andrei didn't need her to change, he accepted her as she was, which was something Lisa had never experienced before. At that moment, Lisa realized that she had to make a choice. The choice between Andrei's stable, calm world and Ivan's passionate, chaotic one. Both were tempting, yet they represented two completely different futures. Andrei's world promised safety, understanding, and a peaceful life, but Ivan's world called to her with excitement, unpredictability, and raw passion. The contrast was stark, and Lisa felt torn in two directions, unable to fully commit to either. She knew that making the wrong choice could change her life forever, and that uncertainty weighed heavily on her heart. The thought of abandoning one for the other seemed unbearable, as both paths offered something she deeply desired. Unexpectedly, her fate took a new turn. During one of her meetings with Ivan, his behavior became more aggressive. He started to put pressure on her, not giving her space to think. Ivan no longer seemed like the passionate man she once admired. Instead, he began to manipulate her, twisting her emotions and forcing her to make a choice she wasn't ready for. He promised her a future where she could be more than just a lover. He said she could be his partner in something bigger than herself. But his words started to feel more like a trap than an offer. Lisa began to feel suffocated, as though she was being drawn into a world where her needs and desires no longer mattered. One evening, during a dinner with Ivan, Lisa had a moment of clarity. She realized that she couldn't continue like this, not in Ivan's world, not under his control. She understood that she had already lost herself in his game, that she was no longer who she once was. His gaze had once been seductive, but now it felt suffocating. She couldn't be a part of his world anymore, not at the cost of her own identity. Her mind raced as she stood up abruptly from the table, deciding to leave before she lost any more of herself. Without a word, she walked out, leaving Ivan sitting in stunned silence, confused and powerless. Lisa sighed as she tried to hide the irritation bubbling inside her during a conversation with her mother. She understood her mother's intentions, she only wanted what was best for her. But Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that her mother didn't truly see her. The world her mother envisioned for her was one of stability, with a suitable husband, a good job, and a safe life. Lisa, however, felt suffocated by this dream. It wasn't that she didn't want success or security, but she longed for something more fulfilling, something that set her soul on fire. Every word her mother said felt like another layer of pressure, pushing her further away from the life she wanted to live. After Lisa left Ivan, her life was swallowed up by routine again. She returned home to her usual world, where her mom and dad were waiting for her, ready to discuss everything that had happened in the last few weeks. Lisa couldn't help but notice how her mom was becoming more persistent with each passing day in her attempts to put her on the right path. Her mother had long seen her daughter as a successful woman who couldn't afford to choose random people. "Don't you understand that you deserve more?" her mother said again as soon as Lisa entered their house. "Andre is the person with whom you can build a future. He will be there when you need him, he will not let you fall, he will not demand the impossible from you." Lisa felt her heart squeeze from these words, but she couldn't answer. Her mother was right that Andre was a stable person, someone you could build a future with, but what if her heart was telling her otherwise? What about what she felt for Ivan? It wasn't just attraction, it was something much deeper that she couldn't explain. Lisa felt the weight of her mother's words pressing on her chest. She knew deep down that her mom only wanted what was best for her, but something inside Lisa rebelled against this idea of a perfect future dictated by logic and stability. Her heart was in turmoil. As much as Andre was the safe choice, the one who offered her the stability she desperately needed, Ivan's wild, unpredictable nature still tugged at her heart. She couldn't ignore the way he made her feel alive, desired, and free. Every conversation with him stirred something within her, a fire she couldn't put out. But how could she choose a man like Ivan, whose world was filled with chaos, when everything around her screamed for security and peace? The next few days were a blur for Lisa. She found herself torn between two very different worlds, each offering something she needed, yet each also taking something away from her. She met with Ivan again, trying to explain her confusion, but he was relentless in his pursuit of her. "You have to trust me, Lisa," Ivan said, his voice low and intense. "You don't belong in that world. You're meant for something bigger, something greater. You're not just a part of some ordinary life. You deserve to be part of my world, where we can create something extraordinary together." Lisa felt the heat of his words, the intensity in his gaze, and yet, doubt lingered in her heart. Was he right? Was she willing to abandon everything she knew for a future full of uncertainty? Lisa couldn't escape the suffocating pressure that her mother's words always brought. Every time she walked through the door, she was met with expectations, with a clear path laid out for her, but it wasn't the one she wanted. Her mind was clouded with confusion, and she didn't know where to turn. The fight within her grew stronger each day, torn between the promises of stability Andre offered and the wild, unrestrained freedom Ivan represented. The conversation with Andre earlier that day echoed in her mind. He spoke of respect, of space, of happiness grounded in trust and understanding. But did that mean she had to leave behind her connection with Ivan, the one that felt so raw, so alive? Lisa wasn't ready to admit it, but deep down, she knew she had already made up her mind. Yet, the road ahead seemed so unclear, and the burden of her choice grew heavier with every passing moment. That evening, after another round of her mother's well-meaning but suffocating advice, Lisa finally found a moment of clarity. She realized that no matter how hard she tried to force herself into a mold that didn't fit, she would never feel fulfilled. Ivan had taught her that, in a way, he had shown her that freedom, even chaos, could be intoxicating and powerful. But he also came with a cost that could take away parts of herself she wasn't willing to lose. As much as she feared the security Andre promised, she knew that love built on respect and stability was something she could grow into. It wouldn't be thrilling like Ivan's world, but it would allow her to breathe, to build a future on her own terms, not someone else's. It was painful to admit it, but Lisa knew that Andre's world was the one she needed, one where she could be herself and grow, not just for him, but for her. The next few days were a blur of emotions for Lisa. Her decision weighed heavily on her, and every moment she spent with Andre felt like a step closer to what she needed. But there was always a nagging feeling in the back of her mind: what if she was making the wrong choice? What if, years from now, she would look back and regret not following her heart, not choosing the thrilling path that Ivan had offered? Lisa couldn't shake the thought, but every time she saw Andre's calm, reassuring smile, the anxiety eased just a little. He never demanded more than she was willing to give, and he accepted her imperfections. He listened, really listened, to her in a way no one else had. And maybe that was what she needed: someone who could be her anchor, not someone who would pull her into a storm. One evening, as Lisa and Andre sat together, she finally found the courage to speak her truth. She took a deep breath, the weight of her emotions hanging in the air. "Andre," she began softly, her voice trembling slightly, "I think I've made my choice. It's not easy, but I know where I need to be." Andre looked at her, his eyes filled with understanding, as though he had known this moment would come. "You don't have to explain," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "I just want you to be happy, Lisa. You have to follow your heart, and I'll be here to support you no matter what." His words, simple yet profound, brought a sense of relief that Lisa hadn't expected. For the first time in a long time, she felt as though she had made the right choice. She wasn't completely free of doubt, but she was free to be herself, to build a future based on mutual respect and love. The following days felt different for Lisa. Her decision to move forward with Andre settled into her soul like a heavy weight that had finally been lifted. The internal chaos had subsided, but the scars of her past emotions still lingered, like faint echoes in her mind. She began to embrace the sense of peace that came with choosing stability and respect over the turmoil of her past relationship with Ivan. Yet, there was a part of her that couldn't completely erase the traces of Ivan's presence from her heart. She would catch herself wondering what it would have been like if she had chosen the unpredictable path, if she had dared to step into the unknown with him. But those thoughts were fleeting now. As she focused on the life she was building with Andre, one that promised a future based on trust and mutual understanding. Andre, for his part, seemed to sense her lingering doubts, but he never pressured her. His patience and steadfastness were exactly what Lisa needed to heal, and with time, she could feel herself becoming whole again. As time passed, Lisa's life with Andre began to flourish. Their relationship grew deeper, rooted in a foundation of mutual respect and shared values. They spent more time together, learning about each other's dreams and ambitions. Andre was a steady force in her life, supporting her career, encouraging her personal growth, and always making her feel valued for who she was, not just who she could become with him. Lisa started to realize that love didn't have to be a whirlwind of passion and chaos. Sometimes, it was steady and reliable, a quiet force that helped you become the best version of yourself. The future she had once feared now seemed promising. She no longer questioned whether she had made the right choice, for in Andre, she had found not just a partner, but someone who genuinely wanted the best for her, no matter what. And with that, Lisa felt herself slowly letting go of the past and embracing the life ahead. Lisa was silent. Her inner world was so full that she needed time to realize what was really important to her. She understood that her feelings for Ivan would not disappear, but she also realized that she could not stay in a relationship where she was used. After meeting Andre, Lisa began to realize more and more how much her life depended on who she chose. Andre was stability, offering comfort and security. He was the man her parents were attached to, the man they thought would be the perfect partner for her. But something about it didn't sit right with her. Lisa couldn't find satisfaction in just living. She wanted to feel alive, wanted, and important, and her relationship with Andre seemed increasingly oppressive. When Lisa returned home, after talking with Andre, she again faced pressure from her parents. Her mother again took up her usual position, reminding her how it's important not to waste time and how it's time to make a choice without wasting years searching for something uncertain. "You can't spend your whole life choosing between two men, Lisa," her mother said, looking at her with caution. "You have a chance to build your life with the person who is truly right for you. Andre is your support. Liza couldn't listen to these words any longer. She felt like she was in a cage. Her own mother, the one who had always supported her, was now the source of what was holding her back. Liza knew she had to make a decision. But her soul was torn. She knew that Andre was the best choice for her future, that he provided her with stability, that his love was sincere. But her soul was yearning for someone who could make her happy on his path, and that was Ivan. But all this turned out to be much more complicated than just choosing between two men. Liza understood that her life should not be reduced to simple decisions. She wanted to understand herself, to understand who she really was, before choosing. And before taking this step, she needed to understand herself. At this time, Ivan came back into her life again. He did not wait, did not sit idly by, he knew what he wanted. He knew that Lisa was his destiny, and despite her decision to leave, he was ready to fight for her. He was not one to give up easily. He arranged a meeting in the same cafe where they once spent long evenings, and where Lisa felt how much she was attracted to this guy. He knew that for her, this was still not a final decision. He could not let her leave without showing his true feelings. Lisa, I can't just leave like that. I care about you. You know that, right? Ivan said as she sat down opposite him. Her heart sank. She knew he was telling the truth, but was her choice right? What would happen to her life if she allowed herself to be drawn into this complicated, emotional cycle again? Ivan, you don't understand. Lisa shook her head, trying to find the words. I can't do this anymore. I can't be with you because it always leads to pain. You make me lose myself. I can't live in constant uncertainty. The words hung in the air, a heavy silence following. Lisa's heart ached as she spoke them, knowing that no matter how much she still cared for Ivan, she could not keep sacrificing herself. She had to choose a path that allowed her to find peace. Ivan didn't back down, despite her words. I'm not asking you to be with me right now, he said, looking into her eyes. I just want you to know that I'm ready to walk this path with you. With you, not for you. Lisa felt her heart start beating faster again. But she was already tired of this fight with herself. Her mind was saying one thing, and her feelings were saying another. Why do you always look for me to suffer? She said desperately. Can't you just leave and give me time? Ivan sighed, realizing that his words could hurt her, but he didn't know how else to convey his feelings to her. Lisa, I don't want to hurt you, I want you to be happy. But I know that I can be the one who will make you happy. Please, think about me, at least a little. I won't leave you. Lisa couldn't control herself any longer. She didn't want to fall into that cycle of manipulation again, but at the same time, her feelings for Ivan were so strong that she couldn't just let them go. She was at a loss, not knowing what would happen next. What should she do? The next day, Lisa met with Andre again. She knew she had to make a decision, but the internal conflict wouldn't let go. She tried to collect her thoughts, but the more she thought, the more she felt her emotions slipping out of control. Andre, I keep thinking. But I can't figure out what I want. You deserve honesty. And I have to tell you that I still can't forget Ivan. I don't know what to do. Andre listened to her silently. He understood her feelings and knew that her decision would be difficult. He wasn't the one who could make her choose him, but he hoped that she would realize that he was always there. Lisa, I will wait for you, but you must understand one thing, I want you to be happy. I cannot demand from you something that you do not want, and if you decide to be with him, I will accept it. But know that I will wait for you if you change your mind. Lisa swallowed hard. Andre was everything she should want. Kind. Stable, devoted. But why did her heart still pull her toward Ivan? Did she really love him, or was she just chasing an illusion? A few days passed, and Lisa became more and more lost in her thoughts. She felt trapped. Andre was caring and stable, he promised her safety and comfort. He was the ideal that her parents had wanted to see next to her for so long. He was ready to offer her everything she could wish for, if only she would choose him. But Ivan. He was the one who lit her inner fire. With him, everything was different, always an adventure, always a challenge, always something unpredictable and exciting. With him, Lisa felt that she was alive, that her life had meaning, that she could be herself. But it was precisely this feeling of freedom that sometimes drove her to despair. It was painful with him because she was constantly doubting, not knowing what would happen tomorrow. She woke up in her room, trying to find an answer to this difficult question. The feeling of oppression did not leave her, and despite the support of her friends and parents, Lisa increasingly understood that her decision depended only on her. But there was no clear path that would lead to unambiguous happiness. Lisa decided that she needed to get away, to be alone with herself for a while. She took a leave of absence from work and went to the countryside for a few days to visit her grandmother, to the same old house where she always felt safe and at peace. There, away from the hustle and bustle and pressure, she could finally sort out her feelings and thoughts. The next morning, Lisa sat on the veranda, looking at the beautiful expanses that stretched to the horizon. This place always gave her a sense of peace, and although she was alone here, it seemed to her that all her problems were already somewhere far away. But the longer she sat, the more clearly she realized that her internal conflict had not gone away. Lisa understood that even if she walked away from the people who demanded a decision from her, she would still have to make a choice. But which one? And at that moment, when she was watching the sunset, her phone suddenly lit up. A message from Ivan. On the one hand, her heart sank, but on the other, she knew that there had to be something important. Lisa, I can't wait. I need you to know the truth about my feelings. I can't hide it anymore, because every moment without you becomes torture for me. I know that you can be with me. I believe in us. The text was short, but it penetrated her soul so deeply, just a few words, but they caused a whole flurry of emotions in Lisa. She couldn't understand why Ivan always stayed close, why he didn't give up. He wasn't like Andrei, he didn't offer stability and comfort, but he offered her something much more valuable. He offered her passion, emotions, sincerity. She put the phone down and closed her eyes, feeling everything pulsating inside her. Moments flashed through her head when they laughed, argued, when he held her hand and promised to be there no matter what. There were moments when she felt safe, when they were simply silent, knowing that every moment was priceless. But there were also moments of fear, uncertainty, painful disappointments. Lisa sat by the window, her fingers tracing circles on the glass. The question echoed in her mind, what to do? How to make a choice when every option seemed both right and wrong? Her heart felt heavy with uncertainty, tangled between emotions she couldn't fully understand. Andrei represented stability, a future she could rely on. But Ivan brought passion, unpredictability, something raw and real. The contrast between them made her decision even harder. Was she choosing between two men or between two different versions of herself? Meanwhile, Andrei did not remain silent. Knowing that Lisa had left for the village, he constantly stayed in touch, sending her messages and calling. He wasn't the type to let things slip away easily. He understood that her heart was divided, but he believed he could bring her back to his world. He offered her everything she once thought she wanted, a safe and predictable future. His words, always careful and well-chosen, painted a picture of what their life could be. And yet, despite his efforts, Lisa felt something missing. Stability was comforting, but did it make her truly happy? Lisa, I want you to know that I will always be there. Andrei's message appeared on her screen. No matter what you choose, I will be there to support you. But know that without you, my world loses its meaning. You and I are the perfect couple. You can't help but understand this. Lisa read the words over and over, her heart pounding. His message wasn't desperate, it was confident, persuasive. He wasn't trying to pressure her, just reminding her of what they had built. And yet, why did it feel like a weight pressing down on her chest? Every word he said felt like a carefully placed piece in a puzzle, leading her back to him. Lisa could feel herself swaying under the familiar warmth of his promises. Andrei was solid, unwavering. She had always known she could depend on him. But was dependability enough? She thought about Ivan, about his fiery energy, his ability to make her feel alive in ways she never had before. With him, she wasn't just safe, she was free, passionate, full of emotions she couldn't control. The contrast between them was dizzying, and it terrified her. Lisa ran her fingers through her hair, frustrated. Why wasn't this simple? Why couldn't she just follow logic, make the practical choice? Why did her heart refuse to listen? She had spent nights thinking about it, weighing the pros and cons. And yet, the more she thought, the more tangled everything became. It wasn't just about choosing a man, it was about choosing a life, a future. And no matter what she decided, there would be no turning back. Was she ready for that kind of commitment? Returning from the village, Lisa barely had time to gather her thoughts before she ran into Ivan. He was waiting at the cafe they used to visit, standing near the entrance with a tense expression. The moment he saw her, his face changed, relief, longing, and determination all at once. Before she could say a word, he stepped forward and pulled her into an embrace. The warmth of his arms made her pulse race. "Lisa, you're back," he murmured. "I know what you were thinking, but I want you to know, I won't back down." Lisa barely had time to react before Ivan continued, his grip on her arms firm but gentle. "You are my destiny," he whispered, his gaze locked onto hers. "Don't make me lose you." His words sent a shiver down her spine. This wasn't just a confession, it was a promise, an ultimatum. She could see the raw emotion in his eyes, the passion that had always drawn her to him. But passion alone wasn't enough, was it? Her heart raced as she realized this was it. The moment where she would have to choose. Lisa's breath caught in her throat as she looked at Ivan. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. No matter how much she wanted to delay, to think it through just a little more, she knew she couldn't. This wasn't just about love, it was about choosing the kind of life she wanted to live. And no matter what she decided, there would be consequences. Taking a deep breath, she knew she had to follow her heart. But which path would it lead her down? Lisa felt her hands tremble slightly as she looked at Kira. The blonde girl's confidence was unsettling, as if she had already won a battle Lisa didn't even know she was fighting. Ivan, still seated, watched them carefully, but his expression was unreadable. Lisa swallowed hard, trying to keep her emotions in check. "I don't understand," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "Why are you telling me this?" Kira tilted her head slightly, amusement flickering in her eyes. "Because I believe in being honest, Lisa. And because I don't like unnecessary complications." Kira's words hung in the air like an unsolved mystery. Lisa felt something cold settle in her stomach, but she refused to back down. "Unnecessary complications," she repeated, narrowing her eyes. Kira shrugged, as if this conversation was nothing more than a casual exchange. "You've had your time with Ivan, haven't you?" she said lightly. "I just wanted to make sure we understood each other. I don't like playing games, Lisa. If I want something, I get it." Ivan sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Kira, that's enough," he said, but there was no real sharpness in his tone. Lisa clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay calm. Kira was testing her, provoking her, and she wouldn't give her the satisfaction of reacting emotionally. "If Ivan has something to say, he can say it himself," Lisa said, shifting her gaze to him. Ivan hesitated for a second, but before he could speak, Kira laughed softly. "Oh, Lisa, I like your spirit. But let's be real, men rarely make the decisions." "We do." The words stung more than Lisa wanted to admit. Ivan looked uncomfortable, and for the first time, Lisa wondered, had she already lost him? Kira's words lingered in Lisa's mind like an echo she couldn't shake. Ivan had chosen, and maybe, deep down, she had been waiting for this moment. She had spent so much time questioning, hesitating, and now, someone had made the decision for her. The weight she had carried on her shoulders suddenly felt lighter. She took a deep breath, looking Kira straight in the eyes. I see, she said simply. Kira tilted her head, as if trying to understand Lisa's reaction. There was no anger, no resentment, just quiet acceptance. And perhaps that was what unsettled Kira the most. Lisa turned away, her mind already drifting toward the next step in her life. She had always believed love should be fought for, but maybe real love didn't need battles, it simply existed. As she walked out of the restaurant, she felt as if she was shedding an old layer of herself, leaving behind the doubts, the confusion, and even the pain. And Andre had always been there, patient, unwavering. But was he truly what she wanted? Lisa wasn't sure yet. All she knew was that, for the first time in a long while, she felt free. The city lights shimmered as she stepped onto the street, and with each step, she felt closer to discovering who she truly was. Lisa didn't look back. The weight of the past was finally lifting, and for the first time in a long while, she wasn't walking towards someone, she was walking for herself. The evening breeze played with her hair as she strolled through the quiet streets, her thoughts racing. Would Andre still be waiting for her? Did she even want him to? She had spent so much time being pulled between two choices. But now she understood, happiness wasn't about choosing between Ivan or Andre. It was about choosing herself. The realization felt liberating, almost intoxicating. She wasn't lost anymore. She was just beginning. Meanwhile, Andre sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel tightly. He had just received a message from Lisa, short but meaningful, "We need to talk." His heart pounded. He had waited for this moment, hoping she would finally see what he had seen all along, that they belonged together. But was she reaching out to him as a lover, or simply as a friend? The uncertainty burned in his chest. As he drove toward their meeting place, he replayed every conversation they'd had. Searching for clues. He wanted to believe that fate was finally on his side. But deep down, he knew Lisa was no longer the same girl who once hesitated between two worlds. Lisa sat in silence, staring at Ivan. His words, full of uncertainty and regret, felt like a storm crashing against the fragile walls she had built around her heart. He wanted her to believe that Kira was just a mistake, that he had been forced into something he didn't want. But could she trust him? Could she let herself fall into the same cycle again? The memories of their time together flashed before her eyes, the laughter, the moments of tenderness, but also the doubt, the insecurity, the way he had so easily let Kira into his life. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. This time, she wouldn't let emotions cloud her judgment. "You say you were forced, but Ivan, no one can force you into love," Lisa finally said, her voice calm but firm. "You made a choice. And now, after everything, you want me to believe you still care?" Ivan flinched, clearly not expecting her response. He had assumed she would hesitate, that she would waver between her feelings. But Lisa had changed. "I did care, Ivan. But I'm not sure I can trust you again." Her own words surprised her. Just a few days ago, she would have longed to hear him say he still loved her. But now, something inside her had shifted. She no longer needed his validation to feel whole. Ivan's hands clenched into fists on the table as he exhaled sharply. "Lisa, please. Don't do this. I know I made mistakes, but I can fix them. I just need a chance." His voice wavered between frustration and genuine desperation. But Lisa remained still. She wasn't going to let his words pull her back into the past. "A chance," she repeated, tilting her head slightly. "Ivan, when Kira appeared, you didn't fight for me. You let her take control. And now that she has you, suddenly you realize that I matter to you?" Ivan opened his mouth to speak. But no words came out. That silence told Lisa everything she needed to know. She stood up slowly, pushing back her chair. "I'm done, Ivan," she said, her voice steady. "I won't be someone's second choice. You had your chance, and you made your decision." For the first time in a long while, Lisa felt in control. She didn't feel anger or sadness, just clarity. Ivan's face twisted with regret, but she didn't wait for him to respond. She turned and walked away, her heart pounding, but her steps firm. H.